What if I told you the next financial crisis could be far worse than the one that shook the world in 2008? It may sound impossible, but today's global economy is carrying more debt, facing higher interest rates, and showing more warning signs than ever before. The question isn't whether the risks exist, it's whether we're prepared for them. To understand why experts are warning about another crisis, we need to go back to 2008. What began as a housing problem in the United States quickly turned into a global financial disaster. Banks collapsed, stock markets crashed, and millions of families lost everything they had worked for. At the center of the collapse was Lehman Brothers, one of the largest investment banks in America. But the real problem had been building for years. Easy loans, excessive borrowing, and risky financial products created a system that looked stable on the surface, but was dangerously fragile underneath. Governments and central banks stepped in to stop the collapse. They slashed interest rates to record lows and injected trillions of dollars into the financial system. These emergency measures stabilized the economy, but they also created a new problem that would grow quietly for years. For years, cheap money encouraged people, businesses, and even governments to borrow more than ever before. Debt exploded across the world, creating an economy that became increasingly dependent on low interest rates and endless borrowing. Then inflation returned. Prices surged across the globe, forcing central banks to raise interest rates at the fastest pace in decades. Suddenly, the cheap money era was over, and the pressure on borrowers began to build. Today, global debt has reached levels never seen before in human history. Governments, corporations, and households now owe hundreds of trillions of dollars combined. The world has become more leveraged than it was before the 2008 financial crisis. Higher interest rates have changed everything. Companies that borrowed billions when money was cheap are now paying dramatically more to refinance their debt. For many businesses, those costs are becoming impossible to manage. Commercial real estate is another growing concern. Office buildings around the world remain partially empty as remote work continues. Falling property values are putting pressure on banks that finance these massive projects. We've already seen warning signs. In 2023, several regional banks in the United States collapsed within days. Rising interest rates had quietly eroded the value of their assets, triggering panic among depositors and investors alike. The biggest danger is how connected the global financial system has become. A problem in one country can spread across continents within hours, affecting banks, businesses, markets, and millions of ordinary people. Unlike 2008, the next crisis may not begin in the housing market. It could emerge from government debt, commercial real estate, corporate defaults, or even unexpected geopolitical events. No one knows exactly where the first crack will appear. History teaches us that financial crises rarely arrive without warning. The signs are usually visible long before the collapse, but most people choose to ignore them until it's too late. Whether the next financial crisis happens next year or a decade from now, one thing is clear. The global economy is far more complex, more connected, and carrying more debt than ever before. The next crisis isn't guaranteed, but ignoring the warning signs has never been a successful strategy. If history has taught us anything, it's that the biggest financial shocks often arrive when the world feels most confident. A financial crisis doesn't begin the day the stock market crashes. It begins years earlier when debt grows too fast, risks are ignored, and confidence replaces caution. By the time panic reaches the headlines, it's often already too late. No one can predict exactly when the next financial crisis will happen. But history has shown one thing again and again. The biggest economic disasters often arrive when people believe everything is finally under control. Whether the next crisis arrives next year or 10 years from now, understanding the warning signs could make all the difference. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into business, finance, and the stories shaping our world. The next financial crisis may not look like the one in 2008. It could begin somewhere completely unexpected. A government struggling with debt, a major corporation defaulting, or a shock that spreads through the global economy in a matter of hours. History rarely repeats itself exactly, but it often follows the same pattern. The warning signs are already there. Rising debt, higher interest rates, fragile banks, and slowing economic growth are challenges no country can ignore forever. The real danger isn't knowing that these risks exist, it's believing they can't affect us. No one knows when the next crisis will arrive. It could happen years from now, or much sooner than anyone expects. But understanding history, recognizing the warning signs, and staying informed may be one of the most valuable investments you can make. The future of the global economy is still being written, and we'll be here to explain every chapter. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more videos on business, finance, and the forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.